Saw my pregnant wife cuddling with her coworker on our security camera while I was away. She says it's innocent. My wife, 38F, and I, 39M, have been together for 12 years. I don't know how to describe it other than calling it the perfect relationship. I think in 12 years we've only ever gotten to the point of really raising our voices at one another maybe 2 or 3 times. We do everything together but always have never had issues allowing each other to lead our own lives and follow our own interests. We bought a house where we wanted. We both have good high-paying jobs that have great work-life balance. Basically it's been everything short of perfect. We've been trying for 2 years to get pregnant and it hadn't been happening. We were just about to start the fertility stuff when I came home from a work trip, and guess what, she's pregnant. I had this weird instant thought of, wait, I thought we didn't try during the week last month because of the fertility testing. But I couldn't remember exactly because, to be honest, we were busy at it. So I just assumed I misremembered. Now, I travel around the country pretty regularly for work. Other than COVID, I've been on the road as much as 40 weeks a year sometimes. Since COVID it's been less but still more than a week a month. Over the last 4 to 5 years my wife has gotten very friendly with a guy she works with, let's call him Matt. Matt is slightly younger, I think 34M or so. I know him, he's married, I know his wife. They've worked together for I think 7 years or so. He's always been around, him and I have been friendly. Have I ever thought something was happening? No, but I've always thought. You'd be a fool to not think there's even a 1% chance your spouse would go outside the relationship. Maybe I'm naive, but I've always seen it as a safeguard to not take my wife or any other partner in the past for granted. She's never given me a reason to think she'd do that. But anything is possible. So about a month ago I'm out of state for work and she's at home. I ask her what she's doing earlier in the day and she says Matt is coming by for dinner. Not out of the ordinary, Matt comes by from time to time. Sometimes with his wife, sometimes without, sometimes when I'm not there. I don't think much of it. We have a security system which includes cameras both inside and outside of the house which we installed after an unrelated incident a few years ago. They record and are live accessible by both her and I. I often use those cameras to check on the dog when I or both of us are away, as the rest of the system is monitored by a company in case of an alarm going off. She knows I check those cameras, there's a system installed where I can talk through them. I'll mess with my wife and she will with me on them if either of us are out of town. She travels for work as well, but far less than I do. Point is, it's known that I check them often when I'm not at home. So I turn on the camera and I see my 4 months pregnant wife, lying on the floor, on her side with Matt sitting, straddling her legs and using a foam roller to massage her hips. So I'm like, okay. What the fuck is this? I start rewinding through the footage and they are eating and talking normally, but then they get on the couch and get under the same blanket. Now, they are feet to feet, but that couch isn't that big. Then they move to the floor and that's when I logged in. Anyway, I text her, I'm still watching the cameras, they both look like deer in headlights, and he very quickly leaves. We get into an argument, she isn't mad at me accusing her but she's adamant that nothing has or ever would happen, and that what I saw was innocent, and she was complaining about being in pain from the pregnancy. Which I know is true, she's already having some issues with back pain etc. The biggest point of that discussion was I asked if I were there would you two have been comfortable doing any of that in front of me, and she reluctantly admitted, no, probably not. I told her I didn't want to talk after that and we'd talk when I got home 3 days later. That's when it hit me. What if my weird gut moment feeling about her telling me she was finally pregnant was this? What if my 1% happened and this is not my child we are having? Now, it eats away at my while I'm at a hotel alone 1,000 miles away for 3 days. I reconcile with myself that I think it's less likely than more likely that something between them has happened. But basically my 1% just jumped to 10%, 20% maybe? I get home and she's on eggshells and doesn't mention it. I kinda wait to see what she's going to do. 2 days later she finally brings it up and breaks down. Swears nothing has happened, she would never. Doesn't do anything over the top to try and prove anything. Which I took as a good sign. But anyway, we talk out the issue and everything to a point of at least moving forward for now. I'm still coping and dealing with it, figuring out how to retrust after all this time. I'm getting more and more understanding of the fact that they are friends, they've been friends for so long, maybe he has intentions. But I don't see her having any, and I've never really picked up on it, and I've spent time around both of them together many times, and never caught anything. So the thing that is destroying me right now is, if I'm wrong and something did happen, all I can figure out how to deal with that. What if that child isn't mine? In the argument and few long conversations we've had about the situation since, I've never brought that up, and she's not mentioned it. Mostly because I don't want to make the situation worse and crush her if in fact she's telling the truth, which I mostly believe. The only thing I can think to do at this point is to wait until the baby is born and immediately order a paternity test in secret. Should I do that? Should I tell her and have it dealt with now? If you're a woman in her shoes and you're telling the truth, would that destroy you, or your view of me? If you're lying, what would you do if I asked? I don't want to ask a super vague question, but what do I do? Mini update, so many comments. Thank you everyone, more than I can address directly, but I'm going to keep reading a few things. Some have made some good points about addressing it now rather than later, and that's something that I'm considering more than I was before. Thank you. To those focused only on my relationship. I get it, but that's not what I'm focused on. We've been talking about it a lot. My wife and I are pretty open people with each other. I'm not saying I'm convinced nothing happened, but I'm more focused on paternity right now. If I need to track, spy on, Life 360, my wife, then this relationship is over already. That's not the relationship we have, and not one that I ever want, and in my opinion not one anyone should ever have. We are working on rebuilding trust. As I said in this long-winded post, my default of 1% possibility went up to 10% or so. Trust me, I'm taking my relationship seriously, but to those I've said this to already. If the kid isn't mine, then there's no longer any conversation to have. I've already had this discussion with my lawyer. I don't live in a state where the birth certificate stuff will be an issue. If I have paperwork that this child isn't mine, then divorce isn't going to be much of an issue. Both of us are in an independent financial situation where it won't matter much regardless. I'll keep up with this post as long as I can and post an update when and if anything gets resolved. Update 1, May 10, 2024. So she was out of state on a business trip until late last night. It's Friday, so she worked from home in our kitchen. So I asked to talk and brought it up and asked for a test. She immediately said yes and said there's zero doubt and nothing that she'd even have a second to worry about. But she has no problem doing it now. The only caveat I left it with is, if it's invasive at all per our doctors, then I'm okay waiting until it's low risk. I'm not a doctor, no clue what they'd have to do it now, so not sure when we are. But she's aware and we are getting one. It was a decent and longer conversation. We are currently sitting together getting lunch. She's got no clue I did this on here. Hence the new account, because she is on here somewhere. Thank you everyone for your help and opinions. A bunch of you made me realize that we are already really open about everything, and if nothing happened then she wouldn't worry about getting one. I was more worried about her health and adding some insane level of stress if it was an issue, as she's an at-risk pregnancy and it took so long for us to get pregnant. So again, thank you all for the help. I suppose I can update if it's mine or not, but I'm not sure how long that will be. I'm 90 to 95% sure it is mine. But this will help us continue this conversation. Thank you. Update 2, just because it seems to be more of a topic on this post versus the other one for some reason. Yes, I have the footage. No, I haven't talked to Matt yet. He's told her he wants to talk about it, but I've told them to wait on that. My relationship with my wife and the paternity is what's important right now. I will eventually talk with Matt. No, I'm not going to get Matt's wife involved intentionally. I don't know why I would other to just be vindictive. I'm not going to cover for him obviously, but his relationship is his. And mine is mine. I'm not interested in making this worse. Whatever is going on between him and his wife isn't any of my business. Relevant comments that Op answered. Oop, when asked why his wife thought she could be intimate with someone else. We've talked about it at length, nothing is being ignored. I could write you an essay about our past, her reasons and my feelings on it. But instead I'll just say, I'm aware of it. She's claiming innocence of anything further, but at the same time admitting that it wasn't a good look, but she wasn't thinking about it at the time. And that's what we are currently working through. When told it doesn't look innocent and asked if his wife goes to Matt's house when his wife isn't home, she's 4 months. I was home. And we had been on the clock. To the point of the days blending together, trust me. We are pretty open people and pretty comfortable with ourselves and each other. I don't know if she's been to his house without his wife. I mean, the 3 and 4 of us all hang out probably once or twice a month, but they work directly together every day and have for years. So obviously there's a closeness there. They are both upper management in their company. And at my company I have long-term friends that are women. I've traveled with them, we've done dinner and hung out in hotel rooms together. But I've never done anything because, that's not me. I'm married and love my wife and my life. I have no reason to. So I mean, the optics are bad. I just have to decide if it's only the optics. Or if she has a reason to. Maybe he has a reason to and that's what I saw? That I'm not sure about. But that comes down to, do I trust her to handle that? She says if that's the case she's never noticed it. And she hangs out with him and his wife just about as much as he hangs out with us. She works in a building right near them. My company is based out of Chicago and I live on one of the coasts. So my coworker friends are much more spread out. We can't go to the bar to grab after work drinks any day like they can. Honestly, I usually go to their work hangouts more than mine because of that. I'm friendly with her CEO because of it. So is it perfect? No. But I've always trusted her, I've never had a reason not to. In 15 years, this is the first crack or dent in it. Oop gives a clearer description of what happened that day. That's not what I saw. She said something, he froze. Said something I couldn't hear, she said no, don't worry about it. He put something in the dishwasher and she walked him out to the front door. He didn't dive out the window. I'm not putting every single nuanced detail in this because that would take me hours to write, and I'm not putting my security footage on the internet for strangers to see. The reason I have the security system in the first place is because of a stranger on the internet. I'm not saying anything beyond that didn't happen for sure between them. I'm saying I don't know now and I don't have any proof. That's what my wife and I are discussing just about every day and what we are working through. The original point of the post was, the only thing we hadn't talked about was paternity because I don't want to put her in a situation where she medically loses the child. Mine or not. Not only have I not been able to put every single nuanced thing in this, I've also sprinkled in false details about our lives, nothing pertinent to what happened but other mundane details. I was a very small public figure at one point. And some low life from the internet traveled across the country to make death threats against us because of something warped in his head. To the point where the federal government had to get involved. People in here are wildly jumping at conclusions with much less information than I have and ignoring the original point of the post and the original questions asked. Has he told Matt's wife? She is my wife's friend's wife. We don't meet up and knit together. I know her through my wife. I see her maybe once every few months at a bar after work, or if they come by for dinner or to hang out. We aren't besties. Again, what should I go tell her? Hey, your husband was at my house. I knew he was there and I saw him run a foam roller over the outside of my wife's hip while he was sitting on her feet. It's super obvious they are fucking, and even though I'm not sure, it's possible she's carrying his baby. This isn't a soap opera. There's nothing I know that I can tell her, so why would she take my word on what tiny evidence there is? And why or how in the world would that help my situation? If all of this is false, now I've destroyed my relationship for acting like a child trying to drum up drama for what obviously looks like being vindictive, and I put them in the same situation we are in now. For something that I don't know is true yet. I believe you have entirely lost the plot here. Update 3, August 21st, 2024. Hi folks. So here's your next update. I also edited this into the last update. Here's where we are at. Yes, my wife is still very much pregnant. She's in the hard to pick things up off the floor stage. She's due in 8 weeks. Holy shit, 6 weeks actually, just looked at the calendar. We are getting weekly ultrasounds at this point. He's already about 5 pounds and has a big ol' head. Her and I had some very long direct conversations about everything. She is adamant that nothing has ever happened and nothing ever would. For a while she was pretty upset with herself for causing this and causing my feelings of doubt. I've done my best to remedy that, as I've got to keep stress off her as much as possible right now. But it will for sure be revisited after the birth. As I've been saying the entire time. I'm really only worried about the child and the birth going well, etc. Well, mostly maybe not only. The only thing we still really disagree on is I thought he was getting too close because he had developed feelings or was getting attention that he wasn't getting elsewhere, maybe, etc. She doesn't see it that way but has also said it's possible, but if so, she was blind to it. I told her I wanted a paternity test and she immediately agreed to it and said no problem at all. My only stipulation was that it couldn't be medically risky or stress inducing at all, as she's a high risk pregnancy. We both spoke to her doctors about it and they basically told us that our only option was to go to the courthouse because they wouldn't do one without the law involved. Which we both thought was ridiculous. Her doctor was a bit thrown off by it, so I didn't press very hard. It was honestly her pretty much demanding it. I knew there were other options. I looked into those other options and ultimately decided to wait until the birth, and I have a lab already set up to do it, ready to go. I'm 95% sure it's unnecessary, but I'm still getting one for my peace of mind and mostly so that nothing will come between me and my child. For those of you that have left me messages of support that I didn't get back to, thank you. I'm going to spend some time going through them tonight before I run off again. For those of you who've left messages that think I should be acting like a 17-year-old high school student and either getting violent, purposely cheating on my wife to prove a point, or other childish trash. Thanks for the entertainment at least. Stop watching TLC and TikTok. That dumbass drama ain't the way, kiddos. And to the one person who suggested I cause an accident with my wife, I hope you end up behind bars someday. It's really likely I'm not going to come back here after tonight until after I get the results from the lab. So if you're really still interested in the results, come back in 1.5 to 2 months. I've been told the results take about 48 hours once submitted. I'll give you your Maury moment then. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Drunk best friend had sex with a taken guy at a 500-person wedding, then told everyone it was my sister. Hi everyone. This is a bit of an unusual situation, but I'll try to explain it as best as I can. The story involves myself, 24F, my best friend Caroline, 23F, my younger sister Nicola, 19F, and our mutual friend, groomsman Daniel, 28M. Using real names. Anyone who witnessed this happens to see this, I'd love for them to get the actual facts of the story. So over the weekend, a very good family friend of both my family and Caroline's family was getting married. Caroline and I have been best friends for years. We met when we were toddlers, our moms are best friends, our sisters are friends, etc. etc. You get the picture. We knew that both of our families would be invited to this wedding and we were looking forward to it for months. It's important to note that Caroline's family and my family have a ton of mutual friends, and this was going to be a very large wedding. Guest count was in the 500s. Everything was going fine and dandy until Caroline got completely wasted. She kept talking to me about how hot one of the groomsmen, Daniel, was, and how she'd had a crush on him for years but he showed no interest. This was probably because he was in a serious relationship and had been dating his current girlfriend for 6 years. The girlfriend decided not to attend this wedding because she didn't know the bride and groom very well, and because Daniel would be a groomsman she wouldn't see him very much either. Fast forward a couple of hours and Caroline is hanging all over Daniel. She's constantly asking him to dance with her, get her drinks from the open bar, etc. She's point blank throwing herself at him, and it was embarrassing and painful to watch. I tried intervening a couple of times to get her off of him, but she snapped at me, and at that point I decided that it wasn't my problem. Furthermore, Daniel wasn't completely pushing her away. He looked like he had a few drinks in him as well and seemed somewhat interested in Caroline. I decided that if he didn't care, I certainly wasn't going to. If he wanted to throw his relationship away, it was none of my concern. I tried. I didn't witness this next part, but by the end of the night Caroline and Daniel were having sex in a different room of the hall. Yes, it escalated quickly. To their misfortune, someone, I'm not sure who, just that it was someone's mom who knew Daniel and his girlfriend, but didn't know Caroline, walked in on them, and for some reason Caroline told this woman that she was Nicola, my sister. I don't know if she was embarrassed or drunk or what, but she purposely identified herself as Nicola so Caroline herself would not be in trouble. Word quickly spread that Daniel and Nicola were caught having sex, and Nicola was mortified. People were talking about how disrespectful, home-wrecking, rude, slutty Nicola was. I honestly can't even blame them. Had I not known better, I would be thinking the same things. On top of that, Caroline had gone around actually telling other people that it was Nicola and confirming the rumor she started. The bride and groom were pissed. Everyone was talking badly about my sister, and Caroline seemed to not care. In fact, when I confronted her about the situation at the wedding, she straight up denied it. Had Daniel not confirmed that it was Caroline he was hooking up with and not Nicola, I might have even believed her. The next day Caroline texted Nicola a half-hearted apology about the whole thing, saying she was so drunk and didn't know what she was doing. The texts included a lot of lol-s and haha-s, so I'm not sure how seriously Caroline is taking the situation. She doesn't seem to realize how mortified Nicola is. Nicola genuinely thinks that her life is ruined. We live in a very tight-knit community, and a lot of people have heard the false version of what went down. I'm at odds with what to do. Up until this point, Caroline had been a very good friend to both I and Nicola. I'm just not sure if I can forgive her for this, especially considering her lack of consciousness about how bad the situation really is. Should I dump her? Or should I give her another chance? Our friendship will be different regardless. My family sees Caroline in a completely different light now, so even if I forgave her we wouldn't be able to do a lot of the same things we used to, hang out at my house, do things with my family, etc. What should I do? Edit 1. At this point, a lot of people know that it was Caroline with Daniel, and not Nicola. However, I'm not sure how many is a lot. Our family friends know, but there were a lot of guests at the wedding who knew Caroline's family better than they did mine. I'm sure these people still think it was Nicola. Edit 2. Another issue is that Nicola is also terrified of the potential ramifications from Daniel's current girlfriend. I have absolutely no updates on the situation with the girlfriend. I don't know her well, and I don't know what Daniel has chosen to share with her, if anything at all. Edit 3. Because a lot of people are asking me how I could even consider remaining friends with Caroline. Prior to this experience, she was honestly a great best friend. Of course we've had our ups and downs like all friends do, but she has always been a kind and caring person, and I really valued our friendship. I've known her my whole life, and the evening at the wedding was very uncharacteristic of her, including her coming onto a man who was in a relationship. Throwing away a friendship with someone who you have been close with for 15+ years is extremely difficult. However, am I prepared to do this if it's the right thing to do? Relevant comments that Op answered. Other Kindoff Mermaid. If Caroline wants to continue your friendship, she needs to make this right and tell everyone that she lied. If she doesn't, then I would personally cut ties. Being drunk is no excuse for what she did. I think Nicola needs to stand up for herself, as well. She should be very clear with people that she would never do something like that. Tell her not to let someone else ruin her reputation. If Caroline won't set the record straight, Nicola, you, and your family can. Oop, thanks for the suggestion. I haven't actually considered asking Caroline to go public and own up to the situation. I think I'll do this. I actually have no idea how she will react. Caroline is usually a decently moral person, but she also hates confrontation, so I wonder how she'll take that. My family and I have been trying to set the record straight, but it's really hard to undo a rumor that has spread around to so many people, a lot of which we are not that close with, mostly because nobody actually wants to talk about it to us directly. Most of the talk goes on behind our backs, but of course we know it's happening. Update. First off, I wanted to give a huge thank you to everyone who responded. I definitely did not expect such a large amount of help and guidance from everyone. This community is awesome, and I really appreciate everyone's time and advice. I unfortunately could not respond to very many people's posts as I left the thread overnight, and once I woke up it was locked, so I figured the least I could do is provide an update. So about a week and a half ago, Caroline casually called me and asked to sleep over. She wanted to attend an event downtown, and my place was much closer to the event than hers. At this point, it became very clear that Caroline had no idea anybody was upset with her, despite the fact that Nicola and I hadn't spoken with her since the wedding. I told Caroline that I didn't think her sleeping over was a good idea, and when she had asked why, I brought up what happened at the wedding. She laughed and said Nicola needed to grow up and get over it, and it really seemed like she expected me to agree and laugh along with her. Well, I took your advice and let her have it. I told her how selfish and inconsiderate she was, and if it truly was no big deal, then she should have no problem taking full responsibility for her actions and publicly acknowledging that she was the one who hooked up with Daniel, and not Nicola. I told her she needed to make things right because Nicola was still mortified over something she didn't do. At the end of the phone call I gave her an ultimatum, and spilled the beans about what actually happened, or our friendship was over, thanks to the Redditor who suggested this. To my complete and utter surprise, she did it. I thought it would make me feel better, but people were actually commenting on her status commending her bravery, and the fact that she did the right thing. I was super annoyed because of course she would never have done this had I not forced her to. But at the end of the day, Nicola is happy and her name is in the clear. Oh, and an update on Daniel and his girlfriend. According to his Instagram, they are happily together. Whether or not she knows about Caroline, I don't know and I don't care. Not my train wreck.